are delighted, and as we know, as Esther just said, that the high quality education for all, in which there is us from India talking about teaching at the right level, and a team from Ghana who will talk about the secondary school scholarship program. We already know that these are the best interventions in the world, thanks to JPAL. But when Abhijit called a few months ago and said that what they would really like is to hear some of the stories, the nuts and bolts that go behind what creates these results, we were even more delighted. Because I think everybody knows from published papers and from conferences why these interventions are good. But I think we don't have anywhere where the stories have been recorded. And one thing, Esther, for your last 5 minutes, is that there needs to be a Netflix series on how these things happen. I will speak with my team, 2 team members, a little bit about the teaching at the right level. And then you'll hear from a Ghana team. And I'd like to really, really thank JPAL, because it has been quite a journey to get all of us here. I don't think birthday parties normally require visas and complicated passport problems, but we've made it, and most of us are here. If I move now to the teaching at the right level, there's often a discussion in Pratham about where this label teaching at the right level came from. We suspect that it is JPAL who gave us this name, because in India, we call it Kamal. Now, Kamal in many Indian languages means something like amazement or magic or something of that type. Those who know Hindi in the audience can perhaps have a better name. And I think that this is a very good opportunity to actually talk about what are those things that go behind. One more before I get into our stories. In Bengali, there is I don't know if this is a tradition or it's just a default, that most children don't get their formal names till they're quite older. So we have something called a nickname, Daknam, and then you have a Bhalonam, which is your real name. So we in Pratham are proud to say that we knew this group before they were called anything. They were called Esther, Abhijit, and Michael, and their team members. And then now that I see it's 20, we knew them from before they were 20 years old. So clearly they existed, but they got their Bhalonam, their real name, probably 20 years ago. And then some more initials were added, I think then or before, I don't remember. But we love to be here because we feel we have been here right from the beginning or almost from the beginning. And I think the journeys from then, these are not just 1 or 2 studies. We consider JPAL to be part of our family, which has been a long and very, very exciting journey. So with this, even though I have time left, I'd like to invite 2 of my very, very close colleagues. Nuzhat Malik, she has been in Pratham for 25 years, 27 years, 28 years. She joined us when she was a child. And we have really grown together. I have worked with her almost all of these years. And she was part of our second RCT, which she led the program on the ground. I'm also happy to introduce Faiyaz Ahmed. Who is a youngster in Pratham, because you've been there how many years?
16 years.
16 years. And he heads our elementary age group, content, training, and everything that has to do with teaching and learning. And between us, we have all 3 been on several projects together. And certainly, I think it has been one of our most interesting and productive projects that we've done, the ones that have been, you read about in the papers. Yeah. So with that, what we thought is, and we didn't know that Mimi and Milu would be in the audience, but we've tried to come up with stories that would interest everyone, and not come up with stories. These are real stories that we have pulled out, and the real struggle has been which stories to actually bring here, because we knew we have a time limit, and which stories to save for the Netflix series, which is surely coming. So I want to start the very first RCT. I don't have anybody from that team here other than myself, but we'll move to the second one, which was our first rural RCT, which happened in Jaunpur district of UP. And I don't know if Dan Keniston is in the audience, because why Jaunpur? Part of it was because at that time, I think internet connectivity was in very few districts in UP, and he apparently went around looking to see where there was connectivity, And Jaunpur was one of them, and that's why we were there. We had plenty of districts in UP to choose from. And the last exciting thing about today is that apparently there's going to be simultaneous translation from Hindi into English, so you can put on your headsets. And this, we have never participated in anything like this, so we are very excited that we can speak comfortably in the language that suits us, and you can hear it comfortably in a language that suits you. So we'll give them 2 minutes to put on their
mic.
Is it obvious what to do, Sarah? Channel 1, yeah. So हम लोग 18 साल पहले 18 years हम लोग जौनपुर जाते हैं. And Nuzhat, it was your first rural program, and it was a completely new project. हमें पता नहीं था कि हम लोग exactly RCTs होते क्या हैं. And you and the team had got, I think, 8 महीने थे for piloting what we were going to do. What is one of your memories from that time?
Yes. तो जब मैं वहाँ गई तो मेरे लिए भी बहुत ही रूरल ऐसे नया था, और आरसीटी तो एकदम फर्स्ट ही था. आरसीटी क्या होता है, कैसे करते हैं, मुझे नो आइडिया, कोई आइडिया नहीं था. और हम गए, लेकिन हमें करना था, सीखना था, हमारी लर्निंग थी. हम वहाँ पर गए और हमें वो विलेज टू विलेज जा के करना था. तो बताने के लिए बहुत कुछ है, बट मैं एक स्टोरी बताती हूँ कि हमारी 7 लोगों की टीम थी. हम एक विलेज में गए. वहाँ पर हमने प्रधान से बात की और हमने पूछा कि हमें कोई ऐसी जगह बताइए जहाँ पर हम लोग रह सकें. तो क्योंकि हमें बहुत न्यूट्रल रहना था, हमें सबसे बात करनी थी, सबसे मिलना था, सबसे कन्वर्सेशन करना था. तो हम वहाँ गए और उन्होंने कहा कि ऐसी न्यूट्रल जगह आप एक स्कूल में चले जाइए. हमने कहा अच्छी स्कूल होगी, हम बड़े खुश. और हम एकदम यंग थे तब, बहुत ही यंग थे, हमें कुछ आइडिया नहीं था. और मैं अपनी टीम लेकर स्कूल में चली गई. जब स्कूल में गई और 7 बज रहे थे और मैंने देखा कि एकदम डार्क, अंधेरा, कोई दरवाज़ा नहीं, नो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, नो बिस्तर, कुछ नहीं. तो हम एकदम ऐसे फेडअप हो गए कि ये क्या हो रहा है. पर फिर सब हलचल मचने लगी कि हम कैसे रहेंगे, कुछ है नहीं. तो हमने कहा वेट, कुछ ना कुछ करते, नाइट निकालते हैं, मॉर्निंग में देखते हैं, कुछ तो गांव में जाके होगा. किसी तरीके से हमने रात निकाली और अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग 6 बजे उठ गए, क्योंकि टॉयलेट वगैरह का कोई वहाँ प्रोविज़न नहीं था. एंड फ्रेश वगैरह होके हम गांव में गए तो लोग हमें बड़े ऐसे देख रहे थे कि कौन लोग हैं, क्या है. हमें दोस्ती करनी थी, हम इंडिविजुअल लोगों से बात कर रहे थे, छोटी मीटिंग्स कर रहे थे, बड़ी मीटिंग्स कर रहे थे, और लोगों से मिल रहे थे. और लोगों को ना ऐसा लग रहा था ये 18 साल, 17 साल, 20 साल के लड़के लड़कियां ये क्या करने आई है. बड़ा सवाल था सबके इसमें. लेकिन किसी तरीके से हम गए और हमने एक मदर्स को पूछा कि क्या आपका बच्चा कितनी क्लास में. तो उन्होंने बोला 4th में. तो हमने कहा क्या ये पढ़ लेता है. हमारा असर का टूल था. हमने कहा क्या हाँ मेरा बच्चा प्राइवेट में जाता है, पढ़ लेता है, आप पढ़ा के तो देखिए. मैंने उनको ऐसे दिखाया और वो, आप यकीन नहीं करेंगे कि वो वर्ड भी नहीं पढ़ पा रहा था. और उसकी मम्मी साट उसको मारने लगी. आई सो रुको, आप उनको क्यों मार रहे हो, आपने कभी उसके साथ काम किया, आपने कभी उसे देखा. नहीं ये तो पढ़ता है और ऐसा आपका टूल ही ख़राब है. मैंने बोला ठीक है, मेरा टूल ख़राब है, हम एक और बच्चे को लेते हैं. और ऐसे करते करते वहाँ पे लोग काफ़ी जमा हो गए. और मतलब 70% देखा कि लोग नहीं पढ़ पा रहे थे अपने लेवल पे. तो वो सब एकदम चुप. तो आप क्या करेंगे मैडम जी, ये बच्चे आप लोग क्या करें. तो हमने कहा हमारी मदद के लिए क्या आप हमें कुछ लड़के लड़कियां दे सकती हैं, यंग कोई भी जो एज ए वॉलंटियर हमारे साथ काम करे. तो जब उनको लगा कि ये कुछ करने वाले हैं, उन्होंने बोला हाँ ये मेरा बेटा है, ये मेरी बेटी है, वो उनका है, आप ले लीजिए. और वो तुरंत लाए. और जो हम पे हंस रहे थे ना, वो एकदम तुरंत हमारे साथ ज्वाइन हो गए. और फिर उन्होंने हमारे साथ ज्वाइन हो गए और उनको लगा कि ये लोग बड़ा सताते हैं, यहाँ से लेके वहाँ चलाते हैं, 20-20 किलोमीटर चलाते हैं इतना. लेकिन वो 1-2 दिन में दोस्ती बनती गई और हम सब एक साथ आ गए. और वो लर्निंग मतलब ये थी कि हमें ये था कि हमें सीखना है, क्योंकि हमारा पहला सिटी था, हमारी पहली लर्निंग थी. तो हम सब बहुत एक्साइटेड थे. वो सीखने के साथ साथ उसमें बहुत लर्निंग नहीं, समय कम है, मैं बता नहीं सकती. लेकिन एक चीज़ ज़रूर कहूँगी कि वो 2005 और आज जो 2023 है, वहाँ से हमें ऐसे प्रोडक्ट मिले जो आज लीडरशिप पोजीशन पे, एक मैं खुद हूँ जो इस लीडर में हूँ, कंटेंट टीम में हैं, प्रोग्राम हेड में, ऐसे काफ़ी लोग वहाँ से निकले जो आज हमारे प्रथम के साथ काफ़ी इम्प्रूव कर रहे हैं और लीडरशिप पोजीशन पे हैं. थैंक यू.
So, is the translation okay? Speak slowly, okay. Let's move a couple of years further. There was, I don't know if Annie is here, she must be here in the audience. Annie, you will remember the Mother Literacy Project, which we picked two of the highest female illiteracy districts, Ajmer in Rajasthan and Purnia in Bihar. And Faiyaz, I think that was your first,
Second
RCT.
Second RCT.
So some stories from there. What we were trying to do there is to see how can mothers help their children's learning. So no research design here, but a story. So Faiyaz, one or maybe one, because we all have too many stories. One story from that time, जिससे हमें अभी भी याद है कि हमने वहाँ पे क्या अनुभव हुए थे.
वैसे तो बहुत सारी कहानियां हैं जिस पे नेटफ्लिक्स पे सीरीज़ बन सकती है, लेकिन बस एक छोटी सी स्टोरी मैं सुनाना चाहूँगा कि उसमें जो हमारी टीम थी फील्ड स्टाफ, उसका जो एवरेज एज था वो 19-20 इयर्स था और वो काम करती थी मदर्स के साथ, मदर लिटरेसी के लिए, माताओं को पढ़ाने के लिए. उसमें सुबह में जाती थी, फिर शाम में जाती थी. शाम में जब वो वापस अपने ऑफिस आती थी तो रास्ते में कुछ एंटी सोशल एलिमेंट या गुंडे टाइप के जो लड़के होते थे उन्हें छेड़छाड़ करते थे, उन्हें परेशान करते थे.
I don't know what the gunda translation.
एंटी सोशल एलिमेंट्स
Bad
इन द
boys.
सोसाइटी.
Let's call them bad boys. Yeah.
तो बैड बॉयज़, यस बैड बॉयज़. और वो बहुत परेशान होती थी और सबका एज जो है ऑलमोस्ट सारी लड़कियां थी, तो परेशान होती थी. और वो हमें बाद में बताया, उन्होंने सारा सॉल्व कर लिया सॉल्यूशन को. तो हुआ कि जब परेशान होते थे तो तंग आ गई, तो एक दिन क्या कि इसको कैसे सॉल्व किया जाए, पुलिस के पास जाया जाए. बोले पुलिस का इसका सॉल्यूशन नहीं है, खुद से कुछ करते हैं. तो वो बैड बॉयज़ के एक सरदार था, हेड ऑफ द बैड बॉयज़. उनसे ये लड़कियां जा कर के मिल ली और उनको कहा कि देखिए हम लोग यहाँ मदर्स को पढ़ाने के लिए आए हैं, मदर्स को पढ़ाएंगे तो शायद उसका इम्पैक्ट बच्चों पे होगा, बच्चों की लर्निंग पे होगा, इसलिए आप हमारी मदद कीजिए. तो सिस्टर क्या प्रॉब्लम है? बोले जब मैं वापस आती हूँ, हम लोग वापस आते हैं तो कुछ यहाँ पे डिस्टर्बेंस होते हैं, कुछ दिक्कत होती है. बोले कोई बात नहीं है, ये जो हमारे लड़के हैं ये आपकी मदद करेंगे कल से, आपको घबराने की कोई बात नहीं है. जहाँ पे आपको दिक्कत होगी ये लड़के आपको ऑफिस तक पहुँचाएंगे. तो जो बैड बॉयज़ थे, जो परेशान करते थे कल तक, आज उसके बाद, उस दिन के बाद वो फ्रेंड्स हो गए और उन्होंने खुद से सॉर्ट आउट कर लिया प्रॉब्लम्स को और प्रोग्राम आराम से चल गया.
So this is an unknown, unintended consequence of an RCT, is that the bad boys get converted into good boys. Let's move a little bit further on. And this is now a setting again back in UP. By this time, the teaching at the right level had been worked into a camp mode, where we were doing a number of intensive camps to get children from completely not being able to read to being able to read fluently around 2013,
13-14. Yeah,
something
13-14.
like that.
Yeah.
And this is one in which all three of us have been very closely involved. And it's been, I think, one of the programs in which I think we learned a lot. And I think the results were very good as well. But Nuzhat, from that time, no, maybe actually not you. We'll go to Faiyaz first.
Yeah.
Yes. We go to Faiyaz first. Faiyaz, at that time, one more behind-the-scenes story, if you can share with us.
Yes, sure. तो बहुत सारे लोग जानते होंगे कि ये प्रोग्राम सीतापुर है, जो कि लखनऊ, जो हेड ऑफ द कैपिटल ऑफ उत्तर प्रदेश है, वो 75 किलोमीटर, अराउंड 75 किलोमीटर स्कूल. जब ये प्रोग्राम शुरू हुआ तो उस रिमोट एरिया में स्कूल्स खुलते नहीं थे. ज़्यादातर जो टीचर हैं वो लखनऊ में बेस्ड थे, वो आते नहीं थे. जब ये प्रोग्राम शुरू हुआ तो हमारे जो फील्ड स्टाफ है उनके पास चाबी होती थी, वो स्कूल को खोलते थे और वही स्कूल को बंद करते थे. इसके बीच में वो बच्चों को ढूंढते थे, पेरेंट्स को ढूंढते थे कि आप पेरेंट्स को कहते थे कि आप अपने बच्चों को स्कूल भेजिए. तो यहाँ से वो शुरू होता है ये कहानी कि स्कूल खोलने से लेके स्कूल के बंद होने तक वो सारी एक्टिविटी होती थी, बच्चे को के साथ एक्टिविटी होती थी, और फिर वो जो हमारे फील्ड स्टाफ हैं वो उनको घर तक पहुंचाते थे. उसमें एक छोटी सी और इंसिडेंट है. हमारा एक स्टाफ सुनील नाम करके है, वो जाता है एक दूसरे विलेज में, इवनिंग में ख़ास करके सपोर्ट करना होता है, इवनिंग में भी और मॉर्निंग में क्लास के दौरान. तो वो जब एक विलेज से दूसरे विलेज जाता है तो बीच में एक रिवर है, रिवर को क्रॉस करना होता है. तो रिवर के लिए क्रॉस करने के लिए कोई परमानेंट ब्रिज नहीं है। ब्रिज को पार करने के लिए एक बैम्बो का एक छोटा सा पतला सा पुल है, उस पे वो बाइक से क्रॉस करता है। इत्तेफाक से वो बाइक से गिर जाता है। गांव वाले देखते हैं, उसको उठाते हैं, बाइक को बाहर निकालते हैं, उसको बाहर निकालते हैं, और उसके बाद स्कूल में पूरा कपड़ा गीला हो चुका है। फिर भी उनको ये लगता है कि अब गीला हो चुका है तो वापस कैसे जाएं, लेकिन बच्चे का एक दिन, एक एक मिनट इम्पोर्टेंट है। उन्होंने जो उनके पास एक टॉवेल था, टॉवेल को लपेट करके पूरा बच्चों के साथ एक्टिविटी की, और वो पॉइंट कि हमें एक मिनट भी वेस्ट नहीं करना है, वो उन्होंने बच्चों के साथ एक्टिविटी की और पूरा क्लास लिया। इत्तेफाक से जयपाल के रिसर्च एसोसिएट वहाँ पहुँचे, उन्होंने देखा, बोले अरे ये कमिटमेंट है तो इस प्रोग्राम को सक्सेस होने से कोई नहीं रोक सकता है।
Coming to Nuzhat, during this, ये जो हमारा पीरियड था, एक साल का पीरियड था, it was almost like a race because you had to get in the learning camps during the school year. उसकी तुम्हारे कुछ यादगार moments?
यस, तो जैसे ये बता रहे हैं कि एक एक मिनट हमारे लिए बहुत कीमती था। तो हमारे लर्निंग कैंप हमने 10 डेज़, 20 डेज़, 30 डेज़, 40 डेज़ लगातार चल रहे थे, और कैंप चलते चलते स्कूल का भी क्लोज़ होने का टाइम आ गया, ईयर क्लोज़ होने लगा। तो हमारी लर्निंग इस बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट थी कि हम किस तरीके से डे टू डे लर्न कर रहे हैं, क्या देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो हमारे लिए बहुत इम्पैक्ट नहीं कहेंगे, लेकिन ज़रूरी था कि इम्पैक्ट तो जो आया है, लेकिन हमारी स्वयं की लर्निंग क्या होती है। तो हमने देखा कि टीम में बड़ा एक्साइटमेंट था, टीम एकदम थी कि हम ऐसा क्या करें कि बच्चे पढ़ें, और इस तरीके से हमें रियलाइज़ हुआ कि क्यों ना हम कम्युनिटी में भी उनके साथ थोड़ा मदद करें तो लर्निंग इम्प्रूव हो सकती है। ये सब करने के लिए हम लोगों ने कम्युनिटी में क्लासेस लगाई, आफ्टर द स्कूल, आफ्टर द कम्युनिटी में क्लास लगाई, और वहाँ पे हम पढ़ाने लगे। और ये देखकर लोगों में भी एक्साइटमेंट आने लगा, टीम का कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ने लगा, और टीम के कॉन्फिडेंस से ज़्यादा मुझे लगता है हमारी जो लर्निंग हुई, बच्चों का कॉन्फिडेंस बहुत ज़्यादा होने लगा। उन्हें लगने लगा कि हम स्कूल में तो जो पढ़ रहे हैं, यहाँ खेल खेल में हम पढ़ते हैं, हमें कोई डांटता नहीं है, हमें सिखाता है, हमें दीदी सर बड़े अच्छे से लर्न करवाते, और वो ऐसे छोड़ते नहीं थे, सर रुक जाइए ना, मैम रुक जाइए, मत जाइए, तो हमें कहना पड़ता था हमें भी घर जाना है। तो वो जो लर्निंग थी, वो आज मैं खुद के लिए तो कह सकती हूँ कि बहुत यूज़फुल है, और हमारी टीम के लिए बहुत यूज़फुल है, और प्रथम के लिए बहुत यूज़फुल है। और ऐसी बहुत सी स्टोरी है, लेकिन समय कम होने के कारण मैं बता नहीं सकती, लेकिन वो आरसीटी हमारे लिए बहुत लर्निंग।
In fact, during that RCT, there was, and I think this is there in some of the process documents, that there were kids who came to these camps who were actually not enrolled in that school.
Yeah.
So you're always wondering about where there has been attrition. Here it was an opposite thing. I think kids in the village who played together heard that and they knew that there were some schools in which this was happening and some schools in which this was not happening. And so very often we would have children in the treatment schools who were actually enrolled not in government schools but in private schools because these interventions were not taking place in. I think Faiyaz and Nuzhat, you both remember that there was a old lady in one of these villages who was watching all of this, and she made a comment. And the comment was, Faiyaz, you should say it in Hindi first and I can translate it. Her comment was about the गाय भैंस of the village.
तो इन्होंने कहा कि इतने कमिटमेंट के साथ आप बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे हैं, तो ऐसा देख करके लगता है कि यहाँ की सकरन और बिस्वा, there are 2 blocks. तो सकरन और बिस्वा की भैंस भी पढ़ लेगी।
that in these 2 blocks where the program is going on, even the cows and buffaloes will learn to read because the people are working so hard. I think before we get off the stage, the RCTs and working with JPAL has been a part of our last 20 years and more. And one comment from one of our young teammates in the Bihar study, we were going along and I think there was a team from Hewlett who was visiting. And so we were going past, different villages, and this young girl was pointing out, this is a treatment school. We had, I think, 3 treatments. So this is treatment A, this is B, this is C. And there was a school in the distance. And I asked her, what about that one? She said, oh, that one, it's an out-of-control place. So now in Pratham, we have control, we have treatment, and a large part of our country which is out of control.
Out of control.
So for JPAL moving ahead, welcome to the out of control cases in India. I'm sure we can work there. We can do other things. But on a more serious note, I think two things that I hope that we have learned in the last 10 years and which I hope in the next 10, 15 years. One is every time you work together as equal partners, I think it helps to really refine what it is that we are doing, what should lead to what, whether it's a theory of change or just a clear set of processes that you try to define. And I think that helps us as much as it helps figuring out not just that it works, but why it works. And the second thing that Nuzhat talked about is a large number of our current leadership teams. We are a very large team in India, 6,000, 7,000 people. Many of the leaders have actually been grown out of some of these projects that we've done jointly. So maybe it's something about the discipline, about this commitment, about the need to be very rigorous even in your implementation. That is a very good germinating ground for leaders. So we are embarking, I hope, Esther, on another round of a series of things we do together. And this, the series that I'm talking about, roughly started around the time that these two young kids were beginning to be born in early childhood. This is, many of you have heard about these pre-math games. We are very excited, and there have been RCTs done. We're in the process of scaling up. But I hope these two things, working very hard on the details and working very well with a team that we know can grow to become leaders, will continue as we work together. So Abhijit, who's not here, we are so happy for your phone call when you asked all of us to come, as opposed to just the research, and we look forward to the rest of the day. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm supposed to call Pascaline here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rukmini, Nuzhat, and Faiyaz, and we look forward to the Netflix series. Now we'll move from India to Ghana. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Pascaline Dupas, professor at Princeton University, Gifty Amaney, field consultant at IPA, and Stellina Pana, field consultant at IPA. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for being here and for having us on stage. I'm Pascaline, I'm so glad to be here, and I have with me Stellina and Gifty. We've been working together for a very, very long time, but it's your first time in the US. Yeah. How is it going?
I would say it's great. Yeah, I'm enjoying my time here, and I'm hoping to enjoy the rest of my stay. Just that the weather is...
What do you mean? It's beautiful, beautiful sun? No?
No. It's too cold.
Okay.
Very.
All right, so the program we've been evaluating together for the past 15 years was the Ghana Scholarships for Secondary Education Program. Together with IPA, back in 2008, we randomized access to scholarships for secondary school for girls and boys, and then since then we've been following up to try to understand the impact this had on people's lives. And you know, you've been at the forefront of this massive effort, I would say sometimes crazy, in the data we've been collecting. And you've walked, you know, for kilometers, carrying heavy bags with all sorts of stuff. You've been chasing respondents, holding their babies, you know, listening to their stories. We wanted to bring some of them today on stage. Unfortunately, they were not granted visas, so that's one of the realities that we should also acknowledge. We are very privileged to be here to start with. But so we'll hear from one of them via video. Deborah will talk to us through the video. But before we hear from Deborah, can you tell us, Stellina, who is Deborah? Where is she right now? What is she doing?
Okay, so sorry. So Deborah is a GIS respondent, and she's a beneficiary of the secondary school scholarship program. Yeah. Deborah has 2 kids, and she's married. So she is in the central region, a town called Abrodunkor. I don't know, maybe you don't know. It's called Abrodunkor. That is where she stays. And then she works with Abrodunkor Government Hospital. Yeah.
All right. So maybe we can listen to the video now.
Life before scholarship wasn't easy, you know. I remember 2008 when I was hustling in Accra. I had a call from two guys that they want to see me. So I quickly came back to Nuzhat, where I was living, to come and meet them. They were interviewing me why I've not gone to school and why am I still home when my colleagues are in school. So I told them financial difficulties. I don't have anyone to help me. Even before, during my JSS certificate, I didn't want to write the JSS exams. But one of my teachers motivated me to write it, and I wrote it. So I told them it's not my fault to be at home by that time whilst my colleagues are in school. So me, I didn't know they were going to give me scholarship at first. So we just discussed things and they interviewed me and then gone back to where they were coming from. And I also went back to Kaneshi where I was doing my selling the pure water and those things. So I was there after 2 weeks later when they called me that I've gained admission and also get the scholarship at Adankomai Senior High School. So I should come and then go to school. In fact, I was very, very happy. I was very happy because I didn't have any dream of me entering the SS. But God being so good, the help of IPA, I was able to enter the senior high school. And it was a plus to me. It was the happiest day in my life that day when I got that news. What will happen if without the scholarship? In fact, I don't know what I would do if I didn't get a scholarship. By now, I'll be on the street still selling. Maybe I've given birth to 2, I've given birth to 3 without any father. So if I didn't get a scholarship, I don't know where I will be. I've gained a whole lot of benefits. One benefit is the scholarship. 2 benefits is me getting in touch with the researchers. This is Stellina, for instance. They always come here to come and learn with my children. They bring them gifts, credits. In fact, and me even going to the American Embassy for interviews, though I didn't get the visa, even though they denied me, but I've been there because I didn't sit down to think that one day I'll go to the American Embassy. Who am I to go there?
So one of the reasons why we do randomized controlled trials is because it's very hard to know what the counterfactual is. And if you just ask respondents of a program what would have happened if you had not gotten the scholarship, it's very hard for them to know. And in fact, we had to edit a little bit the video because at some point Deborah was saying if she had not gotten the scholarship, she would be a prostitute. And fortunately, I don't think that's right because we've collected a lot of data from a lot of, obviously, from the control group. And the situations for those who do not get to go to secondary school, fortunately, is not that dire. But this, this points to the fact that without collecting data on both the treatment and control group, it's just very hard to know what would have happened. But all that data that we collect takes a lot of effort. And Gifty and Stellina, you've been spending so many hours doing this. So can you tell us, Gifty, starting with you, like how many times did you go to the houses of someone like Deborah or others in a sample? And what would you do there? What types of activities would you do to get a sense for what's going on in their lives?
Thanks, Pascaline. So I don't recall interacting with Deborah throughout the GYS GCAP study. Yeah, but typically a colleague, a team member would have contacted her for about 3 times for an in-person interview and then about 10 times for a phone interview. Okay, so for a phone interview, what I usually do is I'll call you and then ask you if you have time to participate in the interview. So if you give me the go-ahead, I just go ahead with the interview. Otherwise, I schedule an appointment with you and then based on your convenience. Yeah. So one thing about the phone interview is that it's not easy because most of these respondents live in rural areas. And getting them on phone, you would have to call them several times before you can get them to complete an interview. Sometimes you would call them today, you would just do like about 5 minutes, call them the next day, about a week to even complete. So that is what I can say about the phone survey. Yeah. So maybe.
Stellina, you want to talk a little bit about the in-person stuff?
Yeah, so I have been to Deborah's place 4 times. Yeah, so as at that time, Deborah had only one child. So when the child was, I think 1 year, 4 to 5 months, we went there to survey the child at that tender age, yeah. So normally we play cognitive games with the kids, yeah. And then we administer caregiver questionnaire with the caregiver. And I went back there when the child was 2.5 years. Yeah, that one too, we play cognitive game. That is an advanced game from the infants games, yeah. And another team went there when the child was 3-year-old, and I went there when the child was 5 years. So I've been with them throughout their journey, yeah.
And so some of these measurements that we were doing together, I suspect some of them I recall we said, oh, let's try this, let's try that, and they were epic failures. And you typically were able to come up with solutions and find ways to do things. So can you give us an example of how you troubleshooted?
Okay, so for me, I will talk about COVID-19 and administration of the child assessment. Yeah. So, before COVID, the setup for the child's game was very simple. So for the 5 and 7 years, we sit close to the extent that we could even touch the laptop screen. Yeah, so it was simple and the kids were engaged in the assessment. But when COVID came and we were asked to go to field, I think the setup was modified slightly. So now the kids and I sat apart for like about 1.8 meters away, and we couldn't touch the screen. So we were given a mini keyboard, and which had a pointer, and it wasn't easy. It really affected the kids' engagement in the game. So what we had to do is to revert to the protocol before COVID, and I would say that really worked, but not forgetting to sanitize our hands, wear a face mask and then a nose mask. So that's what I would say. Stellina will add.
Okay, so I would say with our games, we have protocols that we follow. So mostly with the infant games, that is the 1-year-olds, yeah. With those games, the child is supposed to sit on the caregiver. Then you, the surveyor, will sit right opposite. And with the protocols, if you put a toy there and you ask the child to pick the toy for you, kids, immediately you put it down, they just want to pick the toy. And some of the games too were timed. So you have to follow the timing. So we realized when we tell the caregivers to restrict the child from picking the toy, it wasn't really working because immediately you restrict them, they will not play again. So we found out, we picked a lot of strategies and one worked for us. That is we restricting the child in a playful manner. So in this case, when you tell the child, this is a toy, okay, you put the toy down, then when the child wants to pick, you just playfully, you can do clap, 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 and the child will be clapping. Or you just do you tap the child's hand, playfully. And that really helped us. Yeah.
So it's very clear from what you've just told us that all the respondents in the study, what we call the respondents of the participants in the study, gave us so much of their time, and their children gave us so much of their time. We're extremely grateful for all this time that they've given us. You yourselves, had to at times really not give up and chase them, if I may say, and explain at length why we had to come and interview them once again. Can you tell us, also share with us some of these really tricky stories of being, either chased away by participants or having to woo them back?
It hasn't been easy, as you said, yes, because I started GYS around, I think, 2010, and then I did GCAPS. It hasn't been easy at all because, we have control, we have treatment. Even those who are in the treatment group are still expecting direct benefits. When you go, they get angry at you. And the control group, it isn't easy. There was a time I go, and then there was a time the respondent cursed me. A whole lot. I was too patient. One thing I've learned about through this GCAPS is to be very patient and understanding. Yeah, because if I'm being cursed and insulted and I leave, then what's going to happen next? That means that will be like a refusal. So we've taken a lot. So one thing I do is that after all of that, I have patience, try and explain things to you about the study, and then let you know that it's for policy making, that's on health, and then education. Yeah. So that's what's worked for me. Stellina would add.
Yeah, Gifty, you are right. We've really gone through a lot in terms of tracking respondents. It hasn't been easy at all. So some of the things we do to get our respondents are, one, we don't want to miss anybody. So at least you have to put in more effort to get the respondent. So when you are giving normally before you go to field, they give you a list. That is a list of respondents you are going to track. So first thing we do is to get prior information about the respondents you are going to from our colleagues. So for instance, maybe in the previous round, Gifty went to this respondent. If I'm going there this round, I'll just call Gifty to get information on the respondent, so that when I even call the respondent, I know how to handle that particular respondent. Yeah. So that really helped us. That is one. And also because myself and Gifty, we've been on the project for a very long time. We started GCAPS. So we try to build this rapport with them. So that makes it very easy, yeah. Because when you have that rapport with them, immediately you call them, they don't refuse you, yeah. So that one too helped us to get that recovery rate. And also, in Ghana, some of the rural areas, they have network challenges, as Gifty said. They have network challenges, but because we know where they stay, so sometimes we just go there unannounced, and then we just tell them, oh, you go and meet them at home. You say, oh, I've been calling you, but your line is not going through. Then they will tell you, oh, it's true. My phone is spoiled, network, and that is it. So we get to do whatever we are there to do. And also one thing that really worked for us was sticking to their time. Especially with difficult respondents. For us, we know the respondents who are very difficult, and we know those who are easy to go. So with the difficult respondents, you always have to go by their time. So we have to make sacrifices. In Ghana, normally working hours is 8 to 5. But sometimes we go beyond that 8 to 5. A respondent will tell you, no, I will be only available around 6 o'clock. You have to sacrifice and go. People will tell you after church, weekend. So if you want to get them to do the survey, you have to just stick to whatever they are telling you. then you get them. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I should say thank you so much for all this effort. We have a very low attrition rate in this study, which has been going on for 15 years. And each time we present the results, whether it's Esther or Michael or myself, we always gloat about this amazing follow-up rate. So let me clap and say thank you so much, because this is really thanks to thanks to all your hard work. Now we have just a few minutes left, so let me ask you, after all this time you spent meeting with the respondents, creating this rapport, understanding the challenges that they face, with or without access to education, what do you see as the main and important issues that we together as a community interested in improving the lives of people should think about going forward? What would you want us to be able to answer, the type of solutions that you think would be helpful or problem that we should address?
Okay, so I'll talk about improving quality of education at the preschool level, especially in the rural areas. Yes, so if you can look at that, we'll be glad.
Okay, great. We have experts here in the room who can we'll bring them over to Ghana. Yeah. What else?
And then maybe enhancing livelihood, targeting the high school graduates in the rural communities in Ghana. Yeah, maybe through vocation, I think so, and then maybe entrepreneurial initiatives.
Yeah,
that would also help.
Because one of the things that you've seen in all of the data you've been collecting is the difficult transition from school to the labor market, and high unemployment rate for the youth. So I guess you're thinking like more vocational education would help.
Exactly.
Okay. Stellina, what are your top?
So maybe we can do research on healthcare, because sometimes when you go to the rural areas, you see respondents and some of the rural folks traveling very far to get healthcare. So I think if we research on that, it will help my country. Yeah. Even though healthcare is there, but we want a proper healthcare, to the rural areas. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, then artisanship. That is what Gifty said, because especially even those who got scholarship to SS are still demanding for other stuff. So I feel, in Ghana unemployment is high, so giving people this artisan skills will also help a lot to reduce. At least we cannot take unemployment off, but at least we can do something to reduce the unemployment rate.
Okay. I think we are right out of time, so thank you so much. I hope you get to enjoy the rest of your time despite the cold. Maybe if you don't have a warm enough jacket, I'm sure someone can lend one. Thanks again for coming. Thank you everybody for listening to us.